Cyberpunk. The term was first used to describe a new genre in science fiction literature. Cyberpunk. It was inaugurated with the publication of William Gibson's Neuromancer, winner of the Hugo, Nebula, Locus, and Philip K. Dick Awards. Gibson's books, Burning Chrome, Neuromancer, Count Zero, and Mona Lisa Overdrive, have been translated into every language conceivable, and thousands of copies are sold daily around the world. The success of these books has generated spin-offs such as a graphic novel and a computer role-playing game. Neuromancer's protagonist, Case, is a streetwise young man living at the periphery of a not unfamiliar high-tech society and its laws. Familiar? Yet a society with imploded cities, mutant subcultures, and artificial realities.
The sky above the port was the color of television tuned to a dead channel. Night City was like a deranged experiment in social Darwinism designed by a bored researcher who kept one thumb permanently on the fast-forward button.
You could say that cyberpunk is postmodern science fiction. It's a lot more postmodern than the old science fiction was. But science fiction is a very, I'm speaking of the American science fiction industry. And it's been traditionally a fairly reactionary literary form, a form in which you weren't encouraged to develop as a stylist or to investigate any of the things that were happening in the world of literature. And one of the things that the so-called cyberpunk writers have done, either consciously or unconsciously, is to look around the world outside, look at the fine arts as well, and import whatever they could use into to the sort of literary ghetto of science fiction. In New York publishing, they call science fiction the golden ghetto, because it's this sort of schlock area that makes the most money.
Nowhere in his books do we find traditional government. Real power is in the hands of the Zaibatsus, the multinationals.
The Zaibatsus, the multinationals that shaped the course of human history, had transcended old barriers. Hives with cybernetic memories, vast single organisms, their DNA coded in silicon. Kingpins in a given industry would be both more and less than people. A gradual and willing accommodation of the machine, the system, the parent organism.
I think we're moving toward a world where all the consumers under a certain age will probably tend to identify more with their consumer status or with the products they consume than they would with a sort of antiquated notion of nationality. We're increasingly sort of interchangeable.
When William Gibson's visions were published, they struck sparks in the real world. Scientists and hackers had found a future they couldn't wait to build, couldn't wait to live in, couldn't wait to sell. William Gibson, godfather of cyberpunk, found himself in a situation where he was actually programming the future. Cyberpunks are many things. One thing they all have in common is the delight taken in the use of advanced technology against those who would try to restrict, direct, or control that technology. Perhaps this is why cyberpunks have been known to operate on the fringe of legality. In some cases, the laws to restrict their activities have not yet been written. In others, the laws exist and cyberpunks are squarely outside them.
Many, many years ago, we didn't have computers, and computers have been slowly phasing in as they've been going by. Certain individuals, because of computers, are becoming very heavily empowered. This is all about personal empowerment. Right now, because of the way computers are networked, I'm as powerful as a government agency. I'd say I've got about as much power as, say, a group in the Department of Defense here. You know, maybe not the gross national product or per capita as they do, but just as powerful. soon, in a couple of years, I'm going to be much more powerful than they are, because they're still stuck in local mode. Okay? Things about computer viruses, I can go beyond boundaries. Things about networks, I can go beyond. One of the things I learned a long time ago is an old rule of thumb. You know, distance means nothing to a computer hacker, phone freak, whatever. Anyone using a computer, the phone line, the computer, fax, who knows? Distance doesn't mean anything anymore. I can be anywhere I want. And one of the other things I find about computer viruses, it's a beautiful lever. You know, give me a lever and I shall move the earth. For me, a computer virus is a way of building a little AI of me, an artificial intelligence that can go out and copy itself millions of times and do whatever it has to. One of the things I was asked recently is, you know, sure, you can sit down and write a virus which would take down the banking system, but would you really? And, you know, I've told people before, and I'll tell people again. And if I think it's necessary, I will. One of the reasons I said that was someone asked me about what happens if we get a fascist government here in the States. Would you be willing to take it down? And the more they get computerized, the more powerful I get, the more willing I will be to do that.
Fascinating things about this new cybernetic or electronic universe that we are creating is that many of the ethical rules and the moral postures and even the legal limitations of the material world don't work anymore.
You ever heard the expression, information wants to be free? That's the slogan of the computer underground.
Information wants to be free.
Access to computers and anything which might teach you something about the way the world works should be unlimited and total. Always yield to the hands-on imperative. All information should be free. Mistrust authority. Promote decentralization.
Information wants to be free.
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 You now have the thumbnail chip that in 10 years, they tell us, will have 1 billion transistors costing a few dollars. What that means is that the inner city kid can walk around with more information processing and transmitting ability than ABC, CBS right now, for less money than a pair of Nikes, which they're killing for in the inner city right now. So this is going to be decentralization. It's going to mean ultimate democracy. Who controls the press controls the people. Who controls the tube controls the people. In the future, we'll all be controlling our own screens and zapping our messages around.
Cyberpunks, as William Gibson defined them, are often political to the extent that information is power, and power must be decentralized for collective security. The console cowboys of Gibson's fiction are clearly criminal, possessed of a Robin Hood romance. Their electronic breaking and entering is purely for profit, though not always monetary. However, the real-life cyberpunk breaks into secure systems without hope of reward, merely to acquire information and occasionally wreak havoc.
I mean, literally, it's coming to the point where whoever holds information has power. It's interesting, though. It is interesting, though, because you find yourself in those books rooting for the outlaws, the hustlers, all the patrons of the gentleman loser.
Both Gibson's ROM wranglers and real cyberpunks may sometimes seem nothing more than hackers with shiny new toys. Yet they are crashing the political party with a utopian agenda seriously poses the question of who owns and controls the future. Making records public, keeping the keepers of corporate secrets somewhat honest, watching the watchers, waging guerrilla warfare against the multinationals with personal computers takes more than style and politically correct attitudes. It takes hardware. The average cyberpunk hasn't the funds to purchase elaborate and advanced equipment. How is this problem solved? This is Vincent, whose friends thought he could pass as conventional. He put what little money he had into a suit and haircut. A cyberpunk in businessman's clothing, he approached the big companies for support.
Basically, what we have here are the extremes of contemporary computing. We have an Apple Macintosh. On the other hand, we have an AT&T Pixel machine, which is a massive parallel processing supercomputer. And the intermediary at this point is a Sun Microsystems 3260, which currently does the interpreting of the data and feeds it to the Pixel machine. We also have a couple really nice monitors that came along with it. You know, 19-inch color and 19-inch high-res for text. This was a gift from AT&T. This is faster than all the computing power that launched an Apollo spaceship. I mean, we're on the fast track. Let's, you know, extend the definition of property holders. Let's try and believe that we do own something. I mean, maybe that's what we can share with what's going on over, you know, the miracles that are happening, you know, that we read about in the papers in the East, is let's extend the definition of property holders.
Armed with their free supercomputer Pixel machine from AT&T, the group Process Animation produced their bizarre punk graphics. Still, there are a few things which technology cannot yet provide for. For instance, Gibson's concept of microsurgical implants, or biosorps. In the novel, some characters had small plugs behind their ears which read a microfiche code and could endow them with skills or abilities they would not otherwise possess.
The thing of Microsoft technology, where a person, say, wants to fix a car, doesn't know anything about a car, but you can have a slot engineered in the side of your neck, and you can take a Biosoft a program, stick it in, plug it in, and you'll know everything about fixing a car. I mean, that sort of thing is amazing. That's got to be great.
Yeah, I'd have the whole set for languages. I'd get the, you know, all the Berlitz chips.
Almost all of Gibson's major characters are surgically altered. For example, Molly, the more traditionally heroic counterpart to Case, and his romantic interest. She sees the world through permanently bonded mirror shades with integral readouts. Her nervous system has been altered to make her reactions to that world quicker, as to how she deals with that world.
She held out her hands, palms up, the white fingers slightly spread, and with a barely audible click, 10 double-edged, 4-centimeter scalpel blades slid from their housing beneath the burgundy nails. She smiled. The nails slowly withdrew.
Gibson's radicals have the most bizarre surgery possible to guarantee their uniqueness.
His face was a simple graft grown on collagen and shark cartilage polysaccharides, smooth and hideous. It was one of the nastiest pieces of elective surgery Case had ever seen. When Angelo smiled, revealing the razor-sharp canines of some large animal, Case was actually relieved. Tooth bud transplants. It had seen that before.
All of this may make some think of 21st century Frankensteins, yet ethics change as fashions change. And in as little as 20 years, no one may remark on the mechanical and electronic alteration of human beings.
To think about putting devices in man, electronic devices, seems very foreign, but for 20 years we've been putting in pacemakers, which is a very complicated device, placed into the heart, and more recently we've placed in a large number of devices for hearing that are linking up not directly to the nerve, but to the hair cells that are used in hearing in your cockpit. And there is a lot of research being done on devices for vision. So these devices are devices that are either being used clinically now or being actively researched. To go the next step and to implant these devices in normal people so that they can improve their skills is something that I don't think we do right now, but I wouldn't rule something out like that for the future.
It's going to be very commercial. And I think we could wind up with something that felt like having a very, very expensive American television commercial injected directly into your cortex. I mean, I don't find that an appealing idea.
Many average people fear a world ruled by machines, controlling our lives, or worse yet, having no use for us at all. This technophobia is widespread, and what is one man's dearest fantasy is another's most horrific nightmare.
I'm always a little amazed when I run into people who feel that technology is something that's outside of the individual, that one can either accept or reject. And that's true in a sense, but at this stage of the game, we are technology. We've become something, I think in some very real sense, part of the world's population is already post-human. When you consider the health options available to a millionaire in Beverly Hills as opposed to a man starving in the streets in Bangladesh, the man in Beverly Hills can, in effect, buy himself a new set of organs. I mean, when you look at that sort of gap, and the man in Bangladesh is still human. He's a human being from an agricultural planet. The man in Beverly Hills is something else. He may still be human, but he's in some way, I think he's also post-human. I think this is, the future has already happened.
Information wants to be free.
Information is like a bank. Some of us are rich. Some of us are poor with information. All of us can be rich. Our job, your job, is to rob the bank, to kill the guard, go out there to destroy everybody who keeps and hides the whole information. It's simple, special. Information.
Information wants to be free. Information Information wants to be free. Information wants to be free.